Well, hello, welcome. Thanks for coming so early in the morning, because I know some had a good time yesterday evening. Because that's also part of the fun of the forum and exhibition like this. It's outside also of the presentation. But since you came, so I'm Fabien Benetou. I'm French freelancer working on WebVR. I'm a Mozilla contributor, so working on the A-frame framework. And I will explain you a bit first what is WebVR. Some myth, because there is some misconception about what it is, what it can do, what it cannot do, how it actually works, so that if you want to delve deeper, you get to know also the limits of it and how you can overcome some of them. The whole point, what are the benefits today, because there were WebVR like in 6 months, in 1 year, but like right now, what you can already use it for. So what's WebVR? That's pretty simple. You have a URL, and then you have your content. So I'll send you a link, and then you'll be able, I send you by an email, I send you with WhatsApp, I send you with an MMS, whatever you want, whatever you can see how you go also, of course, obviously on an existing website. You just click on it, and then you have the stereoscopic view. You have one for each eye, and then you turn, you put on a cardboard, you put on your HTC Vive, you put on whichever VR devices you use, and you have the result. So that means no installation. That means enjoying the content straight away. That's it. That's WebVR. It's like now, if you have something, that's the fundamentals. The rest is a bit more in depth and some limitations. So first, some people think it's only for low-end VR, like it only works on a cardboard or on cheap devices, and it works on the HTC Vive, which, in my unbiased opinion, it's the best VR device right now. Because you have those controllers with sub-millimeter precision, because you have room scale, you can move around, you can like just lay on the floor, because you can track as many devices thanks to the Lighthouse system. So no, it works. It works on the Vive. So for example, that's a friend of mine. I'm based in Brussels. I organized a workshop on using VR for rapid prototyping and design. So you will not draw on paper, but paint in 3D. And that's done all on the web. You can see maybe a bit on the large TV behind. That's a browser. So you have a URL, and you don't have to install anything. You probably know Tilbrush. If you haven't tried Tilbrush, you must do that today. You just use your hand, and you have a stroke, and then you can paint on top of it. It's all, of course, in 3D. So I have no 3D modeling skills. I can draw at best potato, and it will take me like 3 hours. With Tilbrush or with a painter like this, I can make something. So that's just and that works on the web. So that shows that WebVR is for high-end devices also, not just cardboards. That it works only on Android or things like this. It also works on iOS, so I have my little iPhone there. And it works with video, with 360 videos, with audio. So it's not Android specific, or it's really cross-platform. That it's cheap or cheaper. So it can be cheaper. If you want a simpler experience in WebVR, it will be cheaper. If you want something full-fledged AAA game, if you cut corners, you will have a lower quality product. So yes, WebVR can be cheap or cheaper, but then you need to take into consideration everything else. So if you have something that does work across all platforms, but with, I don't know if I can swear or not, we'll probably edit that after, but you have shitty assets, you will have shitty results, garbage in, garbage out. It doesn't work offline because it's WebVR. Yes, it does work online and offline. So for example, I did an installation for a big pharmaceutical company in Brussels, and they didn't have internet. Like in a lot of exhibitions, you say like, oh, it's a WebVR workshop, there is a web, it has to be online. And you come and like, oh, there is either no proper Wi-Fi or really no connection at all. And still it worked, so you can really see the person with the HTC Vive on the left and then the screen running. So you can have a server on your local machine, and then you can run without any connection. So it doesn't have to be, even though it's WebVR online. You have also another alternative. which is progressive web apps. So because it's on the web, all the benefits of the progress of web technology, you can benefit that with WebVR. So it means here, you can see a little bit on the, that's also on my iPhone, you can see on the top left, it's on airplane mode, so I have no connection, I reloaded the page, and it still works. So you can cache basically all your content, and then even online, or even if you lose connection halfway through, if it's well done, then you'll still have your WebVR content available. That it works only on low fidelity content. A lot of WebVR are done with a simple cube or some very basic assets. Just like I said before, for the cost of it, if you put simple assets, you'll have a visually simple result. If you put complex assets, because they're well supported, you'll have some high resolution content and high fidelity content. So that goes back to having a proper 3D artist, some proper texture. It supports GLTF with animations. That's a WebGL2 demo from like a month or two ago. So that's all running on the web on a browser. You have all the beautiful shaders. You have all the animation for the clouds, the reflection on the ocean, let's say, on the glasses, all this, and it's running just with the GPU on the browser. So I will also slide gently. Just to show also that it's running on the browser, that's a 3D model that's within my presentation, which is also on the web, so you can access it after. So as long as you have beautiful models, then you can be able to, you can include them in your WebVR content. So not just simple primitives, but also 3D assets. And then if you do animations, then you can put the skeleton in your asset, and then you can animate this asset. So again, here you have a basic model, let's say, but it can be, I got myself 3D scanned, so I have a model of myself as a mesh. I condense to save my life, but in VR and in WebVR, I can put the skeleton in there, animate it, and then after that, it's very simple. Once you have your, for example, 3D artist that animates your mesh, then you just have to declare, hey, I want this action to run, walk, jump, do capoeira, whatever you prefer. So it supports complex assets with animations. It's just like a small thing, and it doesn't interest large company. So you know some of those guys. What's missing, because it's cut, but you have also Mozilla, Intel, Google, all the major tech players are not just interested, but actually pooling resources, promoting content. So that's how you have the Chill Brush, all the experiences sponsored by Google. And some of them that are not tech, so for example, UCB, the pharmaceutical company I work with, or Procter & Gamble, or Airbus, Boeing, they're already now working with WebVR. They doesn't have a large community, so those A-Frame and React VR are the most popular now framework to do WebVR. It has about 5,000 stores on GitHub, and 4,000 for React, so that's roughly a measure of popularity. So it's starting to be pretty famous, so you have thousands and thousands of developers, and it's growing pretty fast. And the number of contributors, so people actually spending time to improve the project, because those are open source, is keeping on growing pretty fast. So one of the arguments is often, okay, but that's nice, but it's not as nice as native, so I don't have the same beautiful result as Unreal. That's kind of true, but in practice, in real life, like how many of you use Blu-ray? Like how many people even remember what Blu-ray is? Like we all use instead just Netflix, because it's so convenient. Okay, we could have higher quality, we can have perfect quality with Blu-ray, and in practice, well, we need to have a physical disc. We need to put it in the player. It's not even, it's not like it's not painful, difficult, but still, like just being able to zap to the next channel and have content. So that's, in my opinion, one of the most reason for WebVR to be a key distribution channel rather than app stores of any different kinds, beside all the potential cost and locked-in and whatever. It's just that the limitation of the frictions between your content and the user who will consume it is just much lower than any other distribution mean. Okay, how it works pretty quickly. So again, you shortcut how it's done. Normally with a native app, you will just like with WebVR, just edit it. So meaning organize your asset, write your codes and all that. And then you'll have to build it. So you'll have to compile your code. You'll have to share what you've built. So for example, an executable file. Then the person, your client or colleague will have to install it. Eventually they'll have to unpack it or install some in-between tools. And then they'll have to start it, and then they'll have the result. So that does work. But you see a lot of the gray steps are extra in WebVR. You edit your content, you share the URL with the person you want to work with or who want to test, and then you experience it, or he or she experiences it. So it doesn't sound like too much extra trouble. Of course, if you want to also make it native, you'll have to publish it to a store. So that's another extra step. If you've ever done it, you know the pain. If you've never done it, try not to, because it's really difficult. And then it doesn't sound like much, but every step, because nobody's perfect, except my better half, but the rest is you need to iterate. So it's cycle after cycle. So every single step will cost you time and resources. So if you can shortcut it. Very briefly also, how it works is you have to do WebVR. A web page is made of DOM elements. So for example, if you've done a web page when you were at uni, you have or image and then the address of the image, and then you have a div to organize a bit your page. That's the same. And then on the other side of that rift, you have WebGL, is how you make proper 3D content in the browser. So the idea is to blend the two together, to fill the gap using, for example, framework like I presented with React or React or A-Frame. And then you have new constraints. So I guess it's a little bit hard to read, but everything has to be dependent on the quality also of the network. So if you have a bad connection, then you need some contingencies. So for example, with a progressive web app, we need to have resolution that you need to stream the quality of the video of your 360 based on how good the connection is. You need to be able, it's amazing to be able to have content on all devices. So from this laptop to my phone to a Vive, it means the resolution will be completely different between this tiny screen and I don't know, a Vive or something like this. So you need to have your content that scales properly and also in quality. If on my little phone you show me simple basic shapes, I'll be okay. If you show me very basic shape on my €1,000 device plus €2,000 computer plus all my installation, I'm like, what did I spend all that money for? So you want to have content that will scale in quality, so the size of your mesh, the size of your texture, also based on what the device can handle. The stack itself, so you have on the top, for example, you have GUI, which is a little framework that's pretty fun because you type in natural language. For example, I want a red cube, and then you have a red cube in VR appearing in front of you. You don't need any code. You go down, you have A-Frame, which is the way to do it like a web page, let's say. React VR, which is the video alternative. Then you can go down, and you have Unity and Unreal that export to WebVR. So up to a certain point, you can use that. And Play Canvas or Babylon, and all the way down, WebGL. Like it's 3D in the browser. But it's important if you want to have very custom or personalized effects, for example, using shaders, then you can go all the way down the stack. So it starts to be pretty intense and complicated. It's heavy math, but then you have complete freedom to do whatever effects you want. So like some kind of post-processing effects. And then all that also is dependent on browsers. It's on the web, so it means that's also why it's important that Google, Facebook, because they bought Oculus, Samsung, Mozilla, Microsoft are in, because if they're not, then we need to wait. So they're all implementing the specification right now. Okay, the benefits, a little reminder after all the debunking. So first, the pain points again. If you don't use WebVR, then it means you need to download an app. You need to install it. So everybody's okay installing Facebook, WhatsApp, and then everything else, like, I don't really know who that publisher is. I don't want to install a 1 giga app on my phone. I don't even have the space for that. So you do it once or twice, because VR rather is still super exciting. But in 6 months, 1 year, once you've tried 1 or 2 or 10 different apps, you're like, I have 20 different VR apps. I use them once a month. I don't want to install another app. So you have still the novelty effect for now. So that's okay. But soon, I mean, everybody grows tired of it. So it's back also to the Blu-ray Netflix example. Control distribution also, if you use an app store instead. It's the app store that will decide if it's good or not. And good is completely up to the platform. So if Apple doesn't like your app for whatever reason it is, you don't publish to the App Store. Limited business model, because also if you use the App Store, you can do it like a freemium, or you can do some limited, you have some rules to respect. Same for the Oculus Store, for all those stores. If you want something completely creative, using some Bitcoin, some internal, whatever you want, doesn't work. Yeah, it's proprietary development, closed culture, and experts only. If you go on a WebVR page, you can look at the source, like you would do with any web page if you want to, and then you can see how it's done and learn from it. So the pace of innovation and of learning, beside how friendly the community is, suspense. Yes. Beside how friendly the community, so it's a bit of a discussion I had yesterday evening. It's like you need to be proud of what you're doing, because it's technical, it's hard, and it's well done, but humble enough to say we're all learning, it's all a new field, it's work in progress. That's really this community feeling that I think is pretty present in WebVR. Yeah, a reminder that it's for VR, so the #1 target will be Cardboard or Oculus or Rift, but it doesn't have to be just that. So it can also work just on a tablet, just on a phone, just on a desktop. So you can have like a smooth transition for somebody who, for example, has never done VR before, from having just playing on the screen and have a magic window where he can see the content, but not without strapping the headset on. And if they feel your content is good enough, then they can put the headset. So it's not like all black or white. Most of the content you see for all the VR apps you see, for example, on Steam, either you have the headset and you can use it, or you don't, and that's it, you can't use it. With WebVR, you can have a smooth transition from nothing to 2D to 3D to VR. So distribution channel, yeah, a little. So you have, of course, the Oculus Store, Steam, now Viveport. I forgot the GearVR store. So basically, if you want to do an app that's multi-platform, that's not WebVR, every single pane you'll have in the process of publishing to the store will be multiplied by the number of stores you want to reach. Just to give a little quote from a random tutorial on publishing to the Oculus Store. So you submitted your app, and then the review process takes 3 to 4 weeks. And then maybe they'll say no, and then you just wait for all that time. The idea is like at the end of this presentation, if you bring your laptop, you can make your WebVR experience, and you can share it with your friend or colleagues now. Like literally 1 second after you finish it, you send the link, and that will work. Nobody is asking or granting you permission. If you've published also on an app store before, that's also a little reminder of how it happened, about 5 or 10 years ago. So you have the technical difficulty of having it, you have all the rules, and also you have the sharing revenue. It will cost you to publish to the store. And that, at that point, I think, yeah, that was just to get the, not even considering the development part, to publish to the store costed like several thousands of dollars. So yeah, a reminder of all the steps. Like I said before, if you build it for a native app, then you need to actually build it, and then you need to send it. It will be unpacked and installed and executed and finally experienced. Versus on WebVR, you'll edit the content, share the URL, and get the experience. So it's like just few steps, but it's every step on every cycle of development, every iteration, and then with every single person you collaborate with. So if you send it to your designer, he'll have to use it. If you send it to the sound engineer, he'll have to do it. So every single person. So that does add up and on every cycle of development. So a little summary of the advantages, the benefits. So it's multi-platform. It's progressive as responsive. So you can have it to go from 2D to 3D to VR on all the different screen resolutions. You can do it also, it's much easier because already on the web to do it network. So if you want to do an experience where everybody is on the same virtual space together, you'll just use the typical web tools, so Firebase or WebRTC, everything that's your Matrix, the cool P2P networking tools right now that just work out of the box, it's on the web. If you want like the metaverse, where you have just to go from one VR experience to the next, that's pretty much the only way to do it now. It's still a bit of a hack, but it does work. You have some experiment on Firefox Nightly. So you can bring content from one VR experiment to the next, and it's, again, without any permissionless innovation. So if you make a WebVR experiment and you make one, then you can send the data from one to the next. You can't do that in any other way beside WebVR. You don't need to install an app, of course. You don't have to publish to a store. If you want to, you can still package it as an app, but why would you want to? So you don't have cost, you don't have segmentation, because it's not because you publish to the Oculus Store that you can publish to Steam. The whole process, you need to start it again. Technical difficulties, all the rules. If you want to do politically questionable content, to put it in a mild way, you will have a lot of hurdles and probably it's not going to pass. If you want to challenge a bit some status quo, then you need to do it without going through a store with its own rules. No walled garden and permissionless innovation again. The same, but a bit visually. So I'll go super quickly. It supports the controller, instant reach, you share the URL, it works, cross-platform, fast development time, and easy to build. So what's yet to come, because that works today. So it works, it depends mostly on the ecosystem, which include Facebook, Apple, Mozilla, Microsoft, even Opera, Samsung, HP. So they're still pouring development money on it. It will probably be more collaborative. So one of my workflow is if I start to discuss with someone about your project, then I'll start to spend some time to understand what the actual need is, what's the problem to solve. Of course, I'll only have the solution or part of the solution in the worst situation. So I'm in the bathroom, I'm having a shower, I'm in the train or in the subway. So I'll like just write on a piece of paper. I'll take a screen or a photo of it. I'll drag it on a painter. So that's the tilt brush equivalent in WebVR. And then I can just paint in 3D a non-functional prototype with something visual, and then I have in minutes something already in 3D, and then I can share the link with the person I work with, and he or she can try it like again within minutes. And after that I can build on top and make a functional prototype. Motion capture, so instead of just programming the curve of how you want an object to move, you just use your Vive controller and then you animate it. Because if you need to program the curve, you can do it. It's a little bit tricky if you want anything natural. And so it's done in WebVR. Again, you can share the result instantly with anybody, so anybody you work with. Using the assets you've done before, so if you 3D painted before, or if you 3D painted before in VR, you can draw something and then use it as an asset for your next scene. It's not just like a piece of art or a non-functional prototype, it can be reused as an asset. So let me show you a little bit also. I did something silly one more time. So that if you want to code now, and if you have a laptop, you can go and learn WebVR.xyz, but it's optional. And a little silly experiment I've done on the way in the train there. Just before taking the train, I painted a little. That's because, like I said before, I'm not an artist, so I'll have to explain. That's a Swiss valley with the little mountains and everything. So let me show you up. You can see a bit the sky, the flag, just to show it's Swiss, the river, and a little piece of cheese and a little mouse, because I love cheese. I love Appenzeller. And the little mouse just goes on top of it. So the idea was that I don't want to show a cube or write something abstract. So I just before taking the plane 2 days ago, I went in a painter, draw something, so that valley, so literally like this, and the little mouse, and then I export those as assets and I can reuse it. So it is ugly, but it's mine. And it took me, in all honesty, about an hour, like to draw, like about 15 minutes, to put them together about 10, 15 minutes, but it was mostly because it's on the train, so a little bit trickier. To animate the mouse, just give a bit of motion, 5, 10 minutes. So it's like less than an hour to... Yeah, it's, well, it's very small. I can see from here. Let me see if I can... Yes. Yeah, because it's really good cheese, so it's not going to be afraid by that. Let me see if I can put it on full screen. Yeah. Now you can see better. And okay, then I will show you a little bit. So if you go on the website, you'll have literally this. So you can then you can try it. If you haven't tried, you can try it on the cardboard. So you'll have the whole environment for you. And after that, on the top right, you'll have this Edit in GS button. So you just click on it, and that's the magic behind the scene. That's about 30 lines of code. I say code because it's very, very basic. So when I said before it's like a web page, it literally is a web page. So you just define your typical page. So this, the first time, might be a little bit convoluted, but you just copy it from the previous experience you've done. You just use a template. So here I just give my normal web page a title so that I can actually bookmark it like anywhere else. I import the A-frame library. That's what will transform this new kind of HTML from text to 3D. Then I import another little library that say whatever I painted before, I can reuse it as an asset. And then I load the actual, for example, flag. I saved it on my web server, so I just load it there. I give it a position, so I put it at 0, 1, -3. So when the camera is at position 0, 0, 0, if you're at 0, 1, 3, it's like 0 on the x-axis, so it's centered. 1 will be on the y-axis, so 1 up, so a little bit above. And it's in meters, let's say. It's about 1 meter for the scale. And then -3 is like 3 meters behind me. Because if I put something like at 0, 0, 0, it's on me, but I don't see it. At 0, 1, -3, then it's a little bit above and a little bit on the back. And that's it. So you take a 3D object, you take a mesh or something you just painted before, or a cube, a primitive, you just position it in space. Here it was a little bit too small, so I just like scale it to make it twice bigger. Same for the little other asset. For the mouse that moved, you can see it or not? Yeah, we can still see it. It's moving around. It never gets tired with all that cheese. And you just say, I make an animation. I take its position from this point in space to that point in space for about 10,000 milliseconds, or about 10 seconds. So it goes from that position to that position in 10 seconds. And then I give it a little wiggle. So I change its rotation from this angle to that angle every second, more or less. And then I put another for the landscape. It's just the same thing, but scaled 100 times to make it feel really, really big. And then a little bit more mountains on the back and a blue sky, because of course it's always perfect weather here. So Yeah.
available on any experience, if on
Yes.
WebVR. You can actually learn.
Yes, that's when I said it's a great community, and it's a really efficient way not just to make content, but even to learn about VR in the first place, or even to learn about programming in the first place, because you see immersive and quality content quickly. So here I put this on this website because I can also, for example, the flag here, I'll bring it like much closer. Maybe you won't even see it anymore. Yeah, so I can change it, and then still loading, but yeah. This way, if you just right-click on the page, you can see the code, but you can't really change it easily. On this website, I have the result and the code, and then I can change it instantly. So that's a normal browser. Like, I did not install any plugin or extensions or anything. And in order to make, when I said before, you just open your laptop and you make your content, it's not like a metaphor. It's literally you go there, you go on that website, learnwebvr.xyz, and you'll have that. You have the code on the right, and then you just keep on building on top of it and improving. So there is no environment to install. Yeah.
I have a question. Like, how did you save like the images? Are they wrapped like in 360, or do they use any projection?
So those, let me show you actually. Those are not images. They are 3D meshes. Yeah, I'll show you a bit more. So you have this way to edit it, which was with the code and the result, which is fun. But you don't have to code, because maybe you don't want to. I need to see a bit what I'm doing. Maybe you don't want to, or maybe because sometimes when you need to adjust the position, it's really finicky. So what you can do is you have a little shortcut. So it's Control-Alt-I, but you can see that in the documentation. And then out of nowhere, you have a visual editor. So then you can click, for example, on the flag, if I can manage. And then I have its property. So I can change its scales. I can add some behavior, and without touching any code. So here you see it's not all the river and the flag, all those 3D meshes. And they were exported from a painter, which was like the WebVR equivalent of Tilt Brush.